So I don't know about you, but when I saw Kid Cudi's performance, and I didn't really watch all of it, in the dress on SNL, I was like, WTF, man. Not what the, but what's the function? What's the framework? What's the focus? And by the end of this video, we're going to have a conversation. You're going to have an understanding about what it means to be masculine and what that means in manhood, because it's an important conversation that I'm starting to realize is not being talked about enough. What's up, all you good fellow fly guys? You know who it is, the Cat in the Hat, your resident fly guy, your chief architect, Michelangelo of StarArchitects.com, and welcome to the dressing room. Yo, here on this channel, I am inviting you to step inside of the dressing room, to step inside of yourself and to align your attitude, your aspirations, and your attributes with your attire so that you step out as the best version of yourself. Here we're gonna try on some concepts, and if they fit you well, then I want you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you can be notified each and every time new content comes out. And if it doesn't, just leave it where it is. Or better yet, share this with a friend, because even though it may not fit you, it may be the perfect fit for somebody else. So let me give a quick disclaimer before we actually get into this conversation. First and foremost, this is not about sexual identity, gender politics, or gender identity even, because in the reality, masculinity is both in men and in women. We have estrogen and we have testosterone. There is a balance there. So this is not about disparaging any part of a community or any sexual preference that you may have. Secondly, it is important to know that this channel is primarily geared to heterosexual men, but if you're a part of the LGBTQI community and you would like to have a further conversation about this, then I'm more than happy to. I just realized that we don't necessarily have enough time to delve into the depths of sexual identity, social elements when it comes to sexuality or our gender biases and all those other different types of things. All right, so we're gonna scale this down and we're gonna focus primarily on the look, the representation, the symbolism of masculinity. Fellas, I also wanted to make sure that this is clear. This is not about Kid Cudi wearing something floral or wearing something that is draped, you know, and free flowing. At the end of the day, we can look at several different types of street style or just modern day style and see floral type of prints. Hell, I just made a great set of shirts for a client that were beautiful floral prints that I was like, man, I gotta get me some of those as well. So it's not about the floral, and it's also not about the drape of a fabric, right? Because there's plenty of different spaces that you can go to, whether it's in Africa, India, or in the Middle East, where guys wear a free-flowing garb. This is about the frame, the function, and the focus. And it's important to understand what that actually means in masculinity. But before we get there, when it comes to the feminine essence of fashion, and why I've often said, even in my book, Dress for Success, why fashion is feminine is because it is fickle, it's fluid, and it's going to follow a natural flow, right? It's not going to necessarily need any structure, because fashion is about a feeling, and you'll hear fashionable people say that all the time. Oh, it's about a feeling, and I felt like wearing this, and so I threw this different type of thing on. But masculinity or style has to have a frame. It has to have a function and utility. It has to have a focus, because that's the thing that is going to leave the impression. And really, that's what masculinity is about. It is about intentional impressions, the imprint that you leave on others. And once again, men and women can do this, but you know, we're talking to the fellas. So when we look at Kid Cudi's performance and we look at him in the dress, if we understand his reasoning for these, we can understand whether this was actually masculine or this was a feminine type of move. Now, once again, when we're talking about manhood, I don't think that this was a fair representation or a real representation of manhood. This is my opinion, because of how it was projected. Even though at the end, you know, he's showing his muscles flexed and everything like that, acting like this is the new man, that was out of order. It didn't make any sense. And so we're gonna look at the three elements: his frame, his function, and the focus, and see if these things actually line up with it even being masculine. So let's look at the frame first, right? When you're framing something, you're encapsulating something, you want to structure something around it. So what was Kid Cudi ultimately trying to structure? Well, when I read and heard about some of the articles, I saw that Kid Cudi was supposed to be paying an homage to Kurt Cobain, the late Kurt Cobain, who was a rock star legend, and he used to often wear skirts and different feminine elements to play with gender norms. Now that was something he consistently did. So there was a framing for him paying homage because he sampled some of Kurt Cobain's music allegedly, and he was trying to pay homage there. So we see that frame there. However, the problem is that this is not something that he is accustomed to doing. He's not a guy like Prince or like David Bowie who is typically doing things that are going to play with androgynous types of looks. And not to mention, nor is he a young thug who has thrown on dresses numerous different types of times. And so and by the way, that's not me condoning what Young Thug has done either, or not condoning it. It's just a recognition there. But it looks out of character, it looks out of place when you have somebody who randomly just does something, and it almost looks like he is seeking attention. And most of the time, the aesthetics, the beauty, the softness of the woman is going to create attention. It's going to be an attention getter. She doesn't have to have anything on. And if she doesn't have anything on, it's probably going to garner even more attention. So when you see men doing things for attention instead of intention, it starts to play more towards the feminine than it does to the masculine. So the next thing that I took a look at was the functionality. What are the standards behind the functionality? So oftentimes when we start thinking about the functionality of a unit or a garment or a tool that we're using, there's often going to be standards that are going to be set to talk about the quality or to qualify whatever it is that is being utilized. But when it comes to like dresses and things of that nature, while we appreciate the qualities that the dress may have, whether it's the drape or whether they've gathered something together, we're more than likely paying attention to the aesthetics. This is why women can go to fast fashion stores and find things that are going to last them a much longer time, because they can use cheap fabrics, they can use cheap construction, and it will maintain over time because we're appreciating the aesthetics. But when it comes to the man, or when it comes to masculinity and masculine style, there are elements that need to be in place. You need to have a quality type of fabric, otherwise it's going to rip and fall apart when you need it most. You need to have a qualitative structure to your garment or to your item, because if it's not, it's going to be unbalanced, it's going to look weird. And there needs to be standards for how you are going to present those things. Now there's plenty of guys who just present, their looks arbitrarily. They don't put any thought or intention behind what they're doing, and then they wonder why they are approached or experienced a certain type of way. And that's because the masculine, once again, has to leave an impression. It's going to have an intent behind it, and that's what people, whether consciously or subconsciously, are going to pull on. So if you're picking up what I'm putting down, then I want you to put 100 in the comment section below. And if you disagree, go ahead and give me a thumbs down, but just talk to me about why you disagree, and let's have a conversation with the community. So the last thing I observed was Kid Cudi's focus. What was he trying to signal with that expression, with that presentation? And the signal had to come after an explanation. And I've often told my homies and clients that you have to think of your style like Twitter, right? You only have a short amount of time, a short attention span to really garner somebody's intention, or to make sure that your intention and your impression is felt when you are dealing with other people. Because after that, they are going to make an impression for themselves. So if you weren't intentional about it, then you have now given them the power to impress whatever perspective they have on you. And they're gonna do that anyway. So you wanna make sure that you have taken the necessary precautions and the necessary intention to do the best to make sure everything is in order. Oftentimes when I'm talking to people, they see me and they see me using colorful language, or they experience me creating certain types of feelings. And that is reflected in my style. That's reflected in the texture that you often feel or see when it comes to the fabrication that I'm wearing. They see that in the different types of colors that I put on. These colors are not usually going to be bright and airy. They're going to be deep and tonal, because I want them to have have the feeling, the feminine element behind the structure of what I am providing towards other people. And it's the same thing when you are looking at people who are fashionably driven versus who are stylistically driven. The people who are stylistically driven have the intention behind what it is that they are doing. They know the reason why they're doing it. And this is why we call those guys, smart dressers or intelligent with their image. But the people who are trying to be fashionable are simply following the flow of the fickle public. They're just trying to keep up with the Joneses. So you see the same thing, honestly, when it comes to Kid Cudi. I didn't see somebody who was trying to take a stand or a position for something. I simply saw somebody who was following what a lot of people have been doing in modern day society. A lot of these, young artists have been doing these androgynous types of expressions, or what they deem an androgynous type of expression, when they're just really trying to marry menswear and womenswear, and it's not really cohesive. There's no reason behind what they're doing either. It's just attention seeking. And so when I saw Kid Cudi there, it was unfortunate, because I know that Kid Cudi has been kind of off the scene. He hasn't been in the public eye in a little while, and I knew that this potentially was an opportunity for him to go viral, for him to be in the discussion again. And maybe he's coming out with an album or a project, and this was going to be a great way for him to get some press without having to really promote himself in a real way. So how is this reflected in manhood, and why is it so important for us to pay attention, for us to give our intention to what we're seeing out in the social landscape? Well, when it comes to manhood, there needs to be structure, there needs to be a process, there needs to be development, there needs to be order, and that's just the natural order of things. When you pay attention to what is masculine, it has to be rigid, it has to be structured, it has to be phallic, right, in certain symbolism, and there is a direction that it is taking us in. There's a focal point, there's functionality and utility behind what that representation is, so that we can ultimately have something that's framed that can be filled with the feminine. Once again, I'm not telling guys not to have a understanding of the feminine essence, the aesthetics, and the energy that comes behind your ensemble or comes behind your presentation. But it's important for you to set the proper foundation first, for you to structure your style and your awareness, so that when you do step out, it's an impression, it's leaving an impact. That impression requires a little bit of pressure, it requires a process for how you're doing these things in order for everything to make sense, for it to be logical. Otherwise, it's just you going by feeling. So once again, we want to remember that you want to frame your function and your focus so that you can leave that lasting impression when you are interacting or interfacing with others. And I actually talked about the masculine and the feminine and the importance of the union in my book, Dress for Success, how to intimately align your image and your identity so that it always leaves a lasting impact. And you can get that in the link below. And if you are looking to develop your own style, if you want to make sure that your masculinity is presented and represented in your manhood, then make sure you get the S.O.S Guide, the Style of Self Guide, that is also in the link below, and that will help you develop your awareness and style. So try this on, see how it fits you, and leave me some comments letting me know, did you feel like what Kid Cudi was projecting was masculine? Did you feel like it was a representation of the modern man? And if so, leave me your thoughts as to why. I would love to have the conversation, and that's ultimately what this is about. So thank you for trying this on. Let me know if it fits you or not. And if it did, once again, make sure that you hit that like, comment, and subscribe button. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so that you can be notified each and every time new content comes out. And share this with a friend. Let's get the conversation going, because I think it is needed. Even though we have this new conversation or this new perspective when it comes to what masculinity looks like, I think that we need to make sure that we are maintaining foundational structures for us to continue to influence young people on what it means to be a man. And by sharing this will ensure that we are always better when we are fly together. I'll see you next time. Peace.